For this video tutorial, I will be demonstrating how to start in your Concepts app. Once you have downloaded the drawings application, you're going to come to a home screen. Of course, you won't have as many images as I have here simply because I've been working in the program, but you're going to go ahead and say start new drawing by selecting the plus sign where it has new drawing. Right now I do have a couple things turned on, so I'm going to turn some things off and get rid of things so that we can go through this demonstration. When you first come to your drawing page, it may not have this actual drawing sheet, so let's go ahead and turn it off. With the Concept app, the application, there we go, the application is meant to be an infinite drawing canvas where you can quick sketch and draft objects, lines, floor plans, and things of that nature freely in an open drawing space. So this here is your infinite drawing space. When you first come in, you want to go over to your top right corner and click that gear sign. That gears is where you're going to come and find your workspace settings. As you can see, we're here with the plain white paper. Should you want to change any of your paper settings, you just simply scroll through and select any of the custom background colors or paper that you would like to have. Underneath that is your grid type. We do have the option of working with a grid. You can have a dot grid, for instance, graph paper, line paper, even 1, 2, and 3 point perspective drawings can be created on your drawing space. From there you have the artboard. The artboard is where we will set up our drawing canvas, the actual sheet of paper, so to speak. We're going to turn that grid off. Here you have that artboard size where you can leave it at infinite and there's no sheet of paper. But if you want to give like a border or a precise location or bounding where you want your drawing drafted, you would type in measurements here by tapping in the rectangle, and let's see if we do a 8 by 10. The default is going to be in inches. And now we have an 8 by 10 sheet of paper, and you can choose to have it portrait or toggle to have it landscape. Now close that out so we can take a look at it. From here you also have the option of your display units, where you can set units up to be feet in inches, digital or metric. We're going to go ahead and continue to work in imperial, which is usually the standard, and leave it set to our inches. Display and format is where you can change how you want your items to show when you're putting in your measurements. We're going to keep it here at fractions. And then the important piece is your tool setup, your interface. Right now, my tool palette over to the left of my screen is set up in a bar type. The default of the program may bring it in as a wheel, so you'll have that wheel image. I personally like working in the bar, so I'm going to choose to select bar, but this is where you will come to set up your tool settings for your tool palette. The next thing in your settings is your interaction tab. This here is where you will set your settings to how you want to interact with the touch screen. You can set up your finger actions and change where you want the finger actions to apply. Turn on and off your canvas, rotate or zoom. What you want to do with a 2 tap of a finger, undo is what I have mine set to. Redo is a 3 tap of a finger. 4 is do nothing. I am working on an iPad Surface. Again, this application is available on both iPad and Windows, and you want to have that touch screen ability or something like your stylus or your Apple Pen. And if you don't have an Apple Pen, you can just use a pen with a little rubber tip. How much pressure you want to have applied to your pen is also something that you can set up. Because it is an interactive screen, if I close this out with the two fingers, I can pinch my drawing together to zoom in and to zoom out, or to zoom in, out. I can do my double fingers or pinch the screen this way. To rotate, I can, do two fingers if I like to rotate it around according to my settings or that nature. Another thing that we have on our canvas space is we can change our drawing name. So to change a drawing name, you would just simply tap on that drawing. It will bring up the rename drawing, and here you will put in your drawing name. And then click rename and you're all set. After that, next to that, you do have the options to turn on something that is called your precision. And this is to draft your drawings precisely on your canvas setting. In this options, you can turn your grid on and off. If you want to change your grid, you don't necessarily have to go back to that gear sign. You can do it right here by tapping on the grid, and here you can reset what that grid is. Going back to the workspace, changing out your grid. Let's say I wanted line paper. And you can edit your grid here as well by tapping the word edit grid, and you can increase the spacing, decrease. You can increase or decrease your line weights, customize your color. And this opacity here, this is how dark you want your lines to appear and how light you want it to appear. Sometimes we want to have our grid on, but just mainly in the background and use it as a guide. This is where we can change the opacity. And of course, you can change your orientation of your grid to landscape or portrait. Also, in your precision tools, there's a snap tool. We have snap options, which will allow us to draft our lines according to the grid, either align with the grid or snap to the grid, and we'll talk more about that. When you are drafting with measurements, you want to have your measurement tool on so that you can see the measurement of each line that you draft. Of course, you can turn it off and on. When you need to make changes, you can just tap on it once again, pull up that workspace, and change your measurements. Right now, the default is going to be 1 to 1 of an inch, so I'm going to leave it set to that. Next thing we have is our tool palette. Again, mine is set up as a bar, which is one of my favorite ways to have mine set up. I'm going to zoom in for you guys a little bit here. Okay, in this tool palette, this is where you can remove my screen up also. This is where you have all of your different brushes and tool options. From here, you can go ahead and select any of the brushes by simply tapping on this item. If you double tap, it'll bring up your options where you can select your brushes. Your brushes are the items that we will draft with. You can use a pen, or you can use a fountain pen, a wire, soft pencil, marker, a fill tool for actually putting in color, dots, and so forth. There are 8 slots on your tool palette. You can have repeat brushes in different slots, or you can have multiple brushes or tools which you can interchange in your different slots. Next to that, you have the option here, which is your first thing, where you have your line thickness or your brush thickness. When you increase this, as you can see in the preview, it darkens up the line that will possibly be drawn and decreases it and makes it a thinner line. Underneath that, you have your opacity. This is how dark you want the line or the object that you created to appear, or how soft you want it to appear. So turning down your opacity will almost have it disappear. Moving it up to 100% will make it darker and more visible. Underneath that is your smoothness. This is where we are going to create straight, vertical, and horizontal lines, or if we want our lines to be able to move freely, we will decrease that percentage. so that we have more of a free hand of lines opposed to a more straight vertical and horizontal. Underneath that is where we will have our color palette. In the color palette, you can just kind of twist and turn around with your finger or whatever your tool is or pencil that you're using, where you can select from all of the colors that Canvas has to offer. The default gives you over 300 options to choose from. If you don't see anything in your color wheel here, you can go to your HSL or your RGBs to kind of mix and create the colors that you're looking for. Other things that are found in your tool palette when you're changing these slots is a symbol such as this. This is called your selection tool. And again, if you double tap, it opens up all of your tools. Your selection tool is when you want to pick a line or select a line or a piece or a word or a letter to move around. Your slice tool is what we're going to be using for erase, just looking at a few of these tools at this moment. Of course, you have the option to add text, and you can put that in your slide as well. Rotate and other options are here as well. So because I have on my screen now, in my slide I have one select tool here and here. If I wanted to change and say, hey, I want to make sure I have like the rotate option, I can just tap it and notice that it changed to that one and hit the X to close out. And now I have the rotate option in my slots of tools here. That undo button is a normal undo, as we will see in most programs that we know, from Windows to from Word documents, PDFs. We always have that arrow back that represents undo. Once you undo something, of course, you can redo it as well by tapping the redo button. You may notice off to the right of my screen here, I have something that is called my layers. The layers can be brought into play by simply tapping the layer symbol next to your drawing name. Let's move that down so you can see it. Found here. With that, you can just tap it and it will open up your layers. Tapping the word new layer allows you to add a new layer. Each layer can be named by tapping on the word and tapping on the letter A. And this is where you can create your new layer. And you would just name it and press done, and now it shows up here. These layers are going to be helpful in the application because it allows you to keep your drawing organized. With the Concepts app, you can use this arrow where you can export and send anything that you created here off to be shared with others. It can be shared as a PDF, a JPEG image, an Adobe file, and it also gives you other options. If you want to bring drawings into the Concepts app, you will import them using that arrow, and you can import photos and files and also take pictures of something that you're standing in front of, and you can import it and bring it right into the Concepts app. Because with this app, again, this is where we can draft and do some quick sketching over items. Taking a look at other things on our screen, when we see this at the top, we tap this allows us to see how much we're zoomed in or out of our canvas, and also what our rotation is and where our drawing is rotated at the moment. When you're having your layers on, if you have something drawn and you don't want it to show, of course you can turn the layer on and off by clicking that eye. If I click that eye where we have custom, that represents my grid because that's the symbol, those squares that's made of dots, I guess you're saying. I turned that grid off, but if I want to turn it back on, I just click the eye and now it is on. Also at the top of my screen where we have the drawing name, the precision icon, and layers, we have something else that is called our objects. These are additional objects that is default to the program. These objects, once you select them on, you can kind of tap on them, and if you hit more, it'll bring in more things. and you can change them out. You can have shapes, people, furniture pieces, and so forth if you kind of just scroll. But as you select them, once it shows you the palette on your screen, you can just go ahead, press and hold, and drag into view anything that you want to use. Once these come into view, you can tap them, and then you will have the ability to manipulate them. So you can press and hold on any of your dots to kind of enlarge them. If you want to erase it, of course, we will use this trash can. If you want to copy this, you can just select the copy. It tells me that it's duplicated at the top of my screen. And then with my finger or my tool that I'm using, I can move it and it's copied somewhere else. So I hope right now this first video gives you a great introduction of how to navigate and begin to move throughout your Canvas space. If you ever run into any issues or problems, you can always use your question mark here, which is the things that are about concept, the version that you're using, but then go to that help, and then you can contact any the online manual or ask for any help and support from the tech and the team over at Concepts.